Hey,
Hey,
hey, hey, how you all doing today? We're so
hey,
excited that
hey, hey.
oh, thanks for coming in late, Han. Um, hey, we're super excited to have Heather, Dr. Heather Walker with us. So let's all give her a big hello. Heather, thanks for joining us. Always scary when
Thank
we
you.
have a doctor on board. I'm just feeling kind of small in this environment, but I'm really looking forward to taking a moment to learn from you today and to talk a little bit about leading with levity, which is something that I love. I like that concept. Obviously, I'm a bit of a clown, and so leading with levity is important to me. And surprisingly, in my 20s and 30s, and even my early 40s, I wasn't really good at it. I made a LinkedIn post about it the other day about Halloween and how much I enjoy being involved in Halloween at work now, and how like 10 years ago I would have never done that. I posted that on Friday. I don't think Hannah's even liked it yet. Probably not.
I don't
Um,
know that I've seen that, but
but true confessions, I haven't always been good at this, but I like to bring a lighter side to things. Dr. Heather, tell us a little about yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, at first, I want to react to some of the things that you said, sir.
Go.
um, well, first of all, I'm with you. I'm not a big Halloween person myself. I'm that curmudgeon in the back. Like, I don't want to put on a costume. I don't want to go to strangers' houses and beg them for candy. No, I don't want to do any of that. And it started in childhood. We were raised to not be a part of Halloween. And so I remember I used to be really upset about that. I used to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm left out. What kind of kid doesn't get to participate in Halloween? What kind of parents will allow this to happen? This is a travesty. And my mom came up to me one day and she's like, she felt really bad. And she wanted to know, what can I do? Heather, what can I do? And I said, just give me the candy. That's all I want. Just go get me a bag of candy. Let's get to business. That's all I need. Like, come on, quit playing with me. And she did that. And she got my brother and I a bag of candy. And after that, we stopped complaining about not being able to participate in Halloween. And it also took away that excitement. So now I'm just like, if I want some candy, I know where to go. I know I know where the grocery store is. I can go get that. But I do have my own child, and she loves Halloween. She was actually a donut this year. She was a donut,
Oh, I like
what
and
that.
kind of donut?
it was glazed with
Okay.
sprinkles.
Nice. The sprinkles are
Yes,
important.
Sprinkles
yes,
are
yes,
On
particularly
a
when you're young.
costume.
yes. And she knows how to beatbox. So she was a rapping donut as well,
Ooh.
which if you've never seen that, it's amazing. I've got some recordings that I plan on bringing
Okay.
back out for blackmail material later.
Send me one this
Fantastic.
afternoon by text. I'd love to see it. That would be hilarious.
Yes,
That's great.
yes. It
That's
starts
Yeah.
so
off with
funny.
I'm a donut. I'm a donut. And then it gets pretty deep. So
Man,
yes, I
skills
am a
I wish I
doctor.
had, but do not.
Right. Me too. Me too. But I hear that one very simple beat is boots and cats. So if you say boots and cats
And
fast,
cats.
boots and
Boots
cats
and
and boots
cats.
and
Boots
Boots
cats
and
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 cats
cats.
boots
and
and
boots
cats
and
and
cats
boots
and
and
boots
cats,
and cats.
you'll
Yeah.
start to hear the beat. So the next time you hear a beat, some of those beats are based on the boots and cats sounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
interesting.
so all that to say, hi, I'm Dr. Heather Walker. I am an organizational psychologist. I do have a PhD. I'm that kind of doctor. I'm not the one who's going to save you if you have too much sugar and too many donuts, but I will overthink things with you. That is what my specialty
Is
is.
that your specialty? It's
Yes,
just to
that is
dig
my
too deep?
specialty. I
I'll
think
spiral with you,
too
don't
deeply
worry.
about things.
Oh, that's so
Amazing.
funny.
Yes, yes.
Amazing.
Um,
That's
yeah,
great.
so I help companies set their people up for success. That is something that I'm really passionate about. I've had people who have came alongside me and given all kinds of advice, wisdom, guidance, sponsorship, allyship, all the things. And that's something that I feel passionate about helping companies do for their people as well. So I've been in the business since 2011 officially. Um, and I have a company called Lead with Levity, and we help organizations set up conditions where their people can thrive. And we've been in business since I think 2020. So that's me in a
Nice.
nutshell. I'm here to answer any questions that you have, whether they be about boots and cats or how you set up psychological safety and set your people up for success. Whatever you want to do, we can go there today, sir.
So then my
Excellent.
question is, can you give me your definition of levity in a boots and cats rap? You know? I'm kidding. I would still love to know your definition of levity though.
I said my daughter raps.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You
But
were
that
really
still comes
clear
from
about that too,
somewhere.
Heather. She threw you under the bus in the first
She did.
moments of
In the
talking with you.
first
I'm
moment.
so sorry about that. How
Okay,
rude,
so there are
Anna.
a couple things that I will not do over the next 30 minutes or however long we are on this call together. I will
Okay.
not rap. I will not sing, and I will not, I repeat, I will not dance. You cannot make me, and I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I can
yes,
Boundaries
respect all
set.
that.
okay.
I appreciate
And
it.
understanding those parameters, does that create a psychological safe zone for you?
Yes, that makes me feel so much better. Thank you. I
Okay,
appreciate that.
now I just want to stretch that just a little bit. Like I could get one of those threes going on that. No, I don't know you well enough to press you that far. So what we
This is
want to
true.
do what we
Hold
want to do
on. I'm
today.
still curious about your definition of levity. How would you
Well,
define
Yes.
levity?
Yes. Okay. So so there are lots of definitions out there. If you go to Webster's, if you go to the dictionary, you will be misled. You're going to automatically think it's all about being irreverent and joking and just being silly to the point where it's totally inappropriate. I I like to go all the way back to the Latin. See, this is the overthinker in me. I like to go all the way back to the Latin of levitas and buoyancy and the concept of when you have pressure, like let's say you've got a buoy in the water and it's floating because the pressure that would normally be on it is not there. If you hold it down and you hold it under the water, yes, you can do that, but once you release that pressure, it floats back up to the surface. So I see levity in that way as well. These are moments throughout your day that are light, they're enjoyable, they are edifying, they build you up, you feel good. And when you share those moments with other people, you can create an environment where people feel more connected, where they can get really creative and silly and have conversations that they probably wouldn't have if you didn't break through that initial mask, that
Mhm.
initial barrier that we usually keep up. We all
Sure.
have it. We all have it. Um, so levity in cat's fashion. I can't do I can't even try. Like I was going to try. In
I
my mind wanted to go there, and then it said, no, not today. That's not happening.
Yeah, that's for Heather Walker, not for Dr. Heather Walker.
That's
sure.
right. That's right. That's for my alter ego. Yeah, on the
That's
weekends.
awesome. I love
That's
that though. I love your definition of that and how it's not quite what everybody else would necessarily be reading in the Urban Dictionary, but how you kind of really take it back to your roots. I think at Better Together group we talk a lot, and I think it like aligns with the concept, not with the word necessarily, but with just showing up as your authentic self, like showing up as yourself and being who you are, no matter the role you sit in, no matter the seat you're sitting in, but being true to you and then letting what you independently bring to that role, like regardless of what that role is. You can have 10 people that are salespeople. All 10 of those people are going to do that sales role differently if they are acting truly as themselves. And so even if
That's
they're hitting
right.
the same KPIs. And so I think that that is just, I'm imagining, is that kind of in line with what you're discussing is like showing up as yourself and allowing that and your creativity through that to help you be the best that you're being. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. And the way you get there is through psychological safety, right? So
Sure.
when you think about what do you actually need to show up in a space as you, not
Hmm.
some contrived version of you or what you think other people want to see, but you. What do you need? Well, you need to feel like you can say whatever you need to say. You need to believe that you can trust the people that are around you, that this is a safe space. If you share something, you share concern, that they're going to listen to you, right?
Hmm.
That they're going to hold space for you. So there's this element of a need to belong that's really important. And then also the understanding that I'm here and I can bring all my weirdness, all my concerns, all my exciting ideas to this space, and there's a place for me here.
Mm,
That's really important.
I'm
yeah.
so curious, and we'll get into the WTF questions in a little bit, but what you're discussing is just so interesting. Do you have an example of either a time that you've seen it as the employee or as the manager or as the consultant coming in to support the group doing it, where you've really seen somebody break through the barriers of like, okay, this is a, because when we talk about this, unfortunately, my brain always goes back to the Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. So like where you've gone from like what is the physical safety, yes you are fine, yes you're getting a paycheck, yes you have those fundamental things to set up, and what will help a company who's perhaps stuck in that realm of safety expand into how do you make that space for other people. I'd love to know, like, I think we talk a lot to people in transportation and safety and just really those male dominated worlds where that's not necessarily as prevalent of a concept. So I'd love to know how you help work through that with management or owners who don't necessarily understand or appreciate the need for that. But I'd also love to know kind of like what you've seen it do after it's done and how that changes things and affects stuff. Sorry, that's a really loaded question.
That was 10 questions.
You can answer whichever one you want.
Okay. Well, I'd like to speak to a few of these things. So I'm so glad you brought up Maslow's. Maslow is, I don't know if you've taken the time to read Maslow. One day I want to just tell y'all, go read Maslow's um sort of it he's got something like a diary, but it's not a diary. He has all these writings, extra writings about this concept, especially later in life where he's starting to kind of think about what's the meaning of life and all of that.
The musings
It,
of an old man.
yeah, it's good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. I would recommend
Maslow's
that you,
musings.
hmm because you're right. When you're in survival mode, it, it's it's it could be every person for themselves kind of a situation, right? And I think that when you're in survival mode, you have to take it back to some really ancient principles. So, let's imagine that we're in the depression, like we're in the middle of the depression, and there's no money, there's barely any food on the grocery store shelves. People are like, I don't have jobs, I don't have this, I don't have that. And your mom is like watering down the dish soap. We all have grandma who, for whatever reason, they couldn't get out of watering down the dish soap, even though they can now afford dish soap. Like it's that ingrained, right? Some of those survival things. Personally, I believe that that's where community comes in, where you agree with multiple people that at the end of the day, we're only going to get through this if we get through this together. If we have some principles in place that we all agree to, and we say, okay, we know that we have a very small margin of error here. We don't have a lot, but we're going to pull what we do have, and we're going to give each other grace as we figure this out. We're going to assume positive intent as we figure this out. Those two things. And then the third thing is, what do you actually need to be able to trust me? And what do I need to be able to trust you? Being very
Mm,
explicit about those things can go a long way whether you have means or no means.
Mm,
So I would say that, like, if you're working in an environment where you don't have a lot of resources, you really need to start pulling everything together as a community, but then also being really clear with your community about what the rules are and how you're going to operate so that you can start to build trust. And then you mentioned something about male dominated roles and
hmm.
areas. I disagree with you. I don't think
Okay.
that I want to take the male out of it
Okay.
because I've I've worked and I went to a school, I went to Texas Women's University. So I'm all about, women's liberation and feminism and all of that. And it's taken me a long time and a lot of observation because I came in with, like, okay, this is my stereotype of men. Men are like this, and women are like this, and men are weird, and all of the things. Why are men like this? I've met so many compassionate men who are amazing managers in male dominated areas. I've worked on the factory floor where it's dudes. It's a whole bunch of dudes. And the men who are supervising, they checked in with us. They made sure that we were recognized appropriately when we worked hard. They knew our lives. They understood our situations. So I want to say right now out loud, men, it's something that it's not a male thing or a female thing. I think it's a compassion thing. And when you take the time to get to know the people that you work with, you can't help but treat them better.
Thank you so much. I, if I could just summarize what you just said there about male managers, and what I heard you say, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Um, People suck, but not necessarily men and not necessarily women. And it's how those people engage with you that makes them a sucky manager or not a sucky manager or a great manager. Is that just fair that that the stereotypes are stereotypes because people have lots of experiences and they categorize people in certain boxes. But the
Yeah.
reality is your individual experience is individual one to one with a person, and either they're a good person or they're a bad person, and that's what determines how they are, less than their um sexuality or whatever the proper term would be for that.
Yeah,
Gender.
thank you for that really good summary. And I love that you started with people suck. Um, people are, this is what I love about psychology. I feel like there were definitely some points in my career where I just I said, did I pick the right field? Because
Mm,
I never feel like I have mastered psychology, right?
mm,
I feel like I've gotten to a point where I understand people fairly well, especially big groups of people, and can predict some things. But people are messy and they're all over the place, and there's never a, okay, if you apply this and you do it this way, it's going to work for every single person out there.
right, right,
So I try to give people grace because I believe that we're all doing the best that we can with the information that we have right now, even if that information is super duper flawed or
right,
misunderstood in some way.
right.
But yeah, people suck sometimes. This is
Yeah,
true.
they do. They do. And
Yeah.
so and that was when I threw my background back to Better Together group. But one of the other things that you said reminded me of one of my favorite songs right now. It's a song by Cochran and Company called Take Me Back. And it talks about
Hmm.
taking me back to church. And I just pulled up the lyrics here very quickly. It says, take me back to the place that feels like home, to the people I can who, to the
Depend
people I
on.
can depend on, to the faith that's in my bones."
Mm.
to a preacher and a verse where they've seen me at my worst, to the love I had at first. Oh, oh, I want to go back to church. Um, and I've been at places where I didn't want to go to church and where I did want to go to church, and it's one of the safest places for me. I'm most comfortable really there than more than in any boardroom, more than even in my own boardroom, maybe. I'm comfortable in the pew and with those people, but I've been hurt by those people too,
Mm.
deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you're
so
not
it's
alone.
no, like anybody that's been to church has been hurt by church people. It's
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
the it's funny because people talk about hypocrites in the church. I don't want to get into a church thing really, but I'm halfway down this paragraph, so I'll finish it.
You better keep going. You better land that plane, sir.
But so like people talk about hypocrites in the church, and it's not people are hypocrites everywhere. It's just that we hold them to a different standard, an unattainable standard in the church, because the object of faith is not a hypocrite. The object of the faith, of the belief system, and probably whatever your belief system is, sits outside that hypocritical thing. They were true to the belief system, but as people that are trying to live it out, we fail because people suck. And we all do. And I suck as a person. I fail as a manager. I fail as a leader. I fail as a husband and as a father. Um, but when I do, I try really hard to get humble and to apologize and to make a pathway forward for us both, for us all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, um, gosh,
That
that's what somebody bring us
It's
back to this
That is
conversation.
it. That is, I got it. I got it. I'm right there. Okay. That is a great example of how humans get categorized in different areas, and how we're seeing them separately. And I think it is really interesting just discussing how you discussed that. Specifically, people in the church get such a harder rep because we're expecting so much more from them based on where we're finding them. And I think that that might be the exact same outcome of people, maybe not the only thing that plays into this, but people having a frustration with males and male dominated industries because they're experiencing those people from leadership where they've historically been before. Whereas now more women are coming into leadership and the narrative's changing, just like it is humans, it is people, not just that, but how management often has more of an impact on how we feel about our roles in our company over the people that we're just working side by side with as our peers. Um, but before we get too far into any of that, we do need to loop back to Heather because I want to ask you a little bit about the WTF concept and
okay.
kind of how it all plays into levity and what that looks like for you. But when
And
you
even her
look at
career.
yeah, when you look at the WTF, the work hard, the tell the truth, the finish the job, is there one of them that sticks out as aligning with the concept of levity higher than the other ones, in your opinion? Like how it kind of correlates to the work that you're doing every day?
No, I don't see a clear
Okay.
connection. However,
I love that.
however,
Go on.
however, that's just because I have not had enough time to overthink this. If I get more time, maybe at some point I can pull out a connection from the pocket of the universe that I live in. But all that to say, I think I can make some connections here. So I believe in all of these things. I I believe in a strong work ethic and making sure that if you do something, if let your word be your word. If you say I'm going to do it, you do it. If you run into trouble, tell people. Don't don't make them have to come to you to say, hey, where were you? Hey, why weren't you working on that thing? Hey, why does it look like this? And you're like, oh yeah, because this thing happened and I didn't tell you. Don't be that person, because then it looks like you are not a trustworthy person. And some people fall into that kind of space where they harm their reputation, but not because they are not a trustworthy person or because they're dishonest, but because just thought, oh, I don't want to bother them with this information right now. So I believe in all of these principles. Um, what I would say is how it connects to levity. Levity to humor. And one thing that's really interesting about humor is humor can tell us some really interesting truths about ourselves and the world. Truths that sometimes we're ready for, sometimes we're not ready for. And
Mm.
sometimes it can tell us a truth that we need to hear, and we would only be able to hear it in that packaging, right? Like when you talk about speaking truth to power or confronting someone, sometimes a joke, a well-placed joke, is the way to get that truth out there without hurting feelings, without harming reputations and things like that.
I think you said,
Interesting. Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
think you
so did I
said,
make a connection real quick? Did I find it in the pocket of the
yeah,
universe?
no, I think you did, and I think you had even alluded to it earlier because I believe when you were talking about levity initially, you mentioned how people wear masks, and levity tears down those masks and gets to the truth behind what's behind the mask in people.
Mhm.
And as Hannah talked about earlier, our desire to help people um, come as they are, to be their genuine self, is tied up around that tell the truth principle. And I think it probably aligns pretty well with your um, levity. But I'm also interested in the psychological safety versus levity because I find that today, and Hannah, you can weigh on this too a little bit. Um, the things that I think are funny, I'm told aren't funny. There's so much generational variance on what you can laugh at and what you can't laugh at, and I think there's some cultural disparity in those things too.
Mhm.
Um, and I was just actually having a conversation with one of my sons this week about it. He shared a joke with me on Instagram, and he was like, "This was really funny in this context, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure it could be said outside of this context. Help me
Yeah.
understand, how to interact with this and when it would be okay for me to joke like this and when not."
I,
Um,
I feel like you're right there on the money. And just to what I have said to you in the past is that there are certainly jokes that you can make with our family, and certainly
Mhm.
jokes that you can make with our friends that you are never allowed to bring into our morning meetings. And that's just strictly audience and placement. And what you think is funny can be funny to you. I'm so happy for that. Have it be funny to you, but just know where you're saying it and know the audience that you're saying it to. And I think that that's the piece, but I feel like we're already getting there.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I would encourage you. So I have a podcast as well. It's called the Lead with Levity podcast, and there's an
Okay.
episode on there that the guest name is Mike Kundle. He is also has a PhD, so he's also a doctor of overthinking things, and he has spent a lot of time thinking about humor. He is an ethics philosopher on humor, the ethics of humor, but he's
Ooh,
cool. He is
So
super duper
interesting.
cool.
So
the
And
ethics
interesting.
of humor, that sounds impossible.
so, right. So he helps people understand where the line is and how do you avoid getting canceled? How do you know what is appropriate? And he created this model of it's called humor as a house. And he talks about how, and I don't want to take, if you go listen to the episode, you're going to hear so much that it's going to help you. I think it's going to frame some things, it's going to unlock some things in your mind. But basically, if you think about a house, every room in that house has a different purpose and a different kind of feel to it. And if you're going to someone's house, you're going to behave differently depending on which room you're invited into at different points in time. The kind of humor that you would use at the front door is different than the kind of humor that you would use at in the backyard for the barbecue, right? or y'all are hanging out drinking beers in the basement. Like, it's different humor. And
Right.
it's a different
Or in that
level.
room with the plastic coverings on the
And
cushions
the
of the
duct tape.
sofa.
Oh,
Right.
oh, not that one. I'm
Y'all were
sorry.
in different
There's no
rooms.
humor in that room. There ain't no humor in that room.
Oh, I don't know what just happened, but you were talking about grandma's living room, the special living room that no one is allowed to sit on the furniture. Luckily, we don't have those living rooms anymore. And I took it to a very dark place. I apologize. I won't do that
Heather was
again.
talking about the back room underground. Like there's no humor in
Yeah.
either room, but still very different vibes.
I just want to say Heather probably got a whooping once for going into that room and doing something wrong.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. All
goodness.
right. So, all that to say that, you know what, everything that you said is right. It does depend on culture and all of that stuff. I went on a trip with my family to South Africa, and we love comedy. We went to a comedy show thinking, "Oh yeah, this is going to be awesome." We didn't laugh. We didn't laugh a lot. We sat there straight faced like, "Oh, this is not funny." And my husband and I debriefed after that because we were like, what is wrong with us? People are laughing, we're not laughing. And that's where we got to experience firsthand context. Context matters. You need to
Mm,
have the same contextual clues to get the joke, to understand the setup, the reframe of what we're talking about to get to that punchline. And if you don't have that context, it's going to go over your head. You're not going to understand why this one thing is important and it's not over here. It's not going to make sense. Like 6 7, like what is this about? That is
I
that
laughed and he
comes up
didn't.
at least once a day in my household. 6 7, 6 7. At first, my kid came home and she was like, the boys are obsessed with 6 7. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't, and she tried to explain, and it didn't make any sense. And then I looked it up, and yeah, yeah, this slang doesn't make any sense. So I gotcha. I understand. I completely agree. We probably have three generations on the call right now. I don't
right?
know. I don't know what generations y'all consider yourselves in. I consider
Old.
myself an old. Okay, you're in the old one. That's great. I consider myself an elder millennial. Hannah, what are
I'm a
you?
Z. I'm a Z, so we do have all three.
I'm X.
Okay, you're X.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, it's you have to have the context, and if you don't have that shared context, then your your joke is just not going to land. You can't go in there with old people jokes if they don't know what those things are that you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
so
one of
fair.
the things that Hannah's really been teaching me, and I love it, that she's teaching me, and
That
it's a
sounded
hard
like
lesson.
sarcasm.
No, it's not. No, I really do. Like, I want to be a better human. I don't want to suck. I do, but I don't want to. And so one of the things that she's been teaching me is that in some of the humor that I use, I risk losing the respect of the people on the
Yes.
call or in the room. And as a result, I lose the ability to lead them.
Hmm.
And that's to Gen X, that's just not a thing. They came in, they offended us, we dealt with it and moved on.
Hmm.
Millennials were, and please um, discuss this with me if you disagree. Millennials were, you've offended me and I'm mad about it. I'm going to have to write a blog. Um, Z's came along and were like, you've offended me and we're going to protest about it or
Okay.
cancel you. And so like those three different mindsets about how you deal with the offense is just very different. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And there is some research on out there about the jokester, right? So if you're going to be the clown, the jokester, the fool, all of those historical words that are used, the jester that are used to describe the person who makes people laugh, you do have to be careful with that as a leader because there is a fine line between someone who is approachable, funny, enjoyable to be around, and someone who tells jokes. And that's what we see this person for. So
That's really interesting.
yeah, you can use it to lighten the mood. You can use it to reduce the power differential. If you're working with someone and they're really uncomfortable, you can use it to reduce the power differential there. And you can be funny as a leader. I would just avoid making any jokes at another person's expense if you are the leader, because that will shut down everything. That'll make
Sure.
the room go cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wisdom. That's
Yeah.
wisdom right there.
Well, we don't have so much longer with you, but I do have one other question on the
Okay.
concept of how and when this humor should come into place. And from any role, whether it's a leadership role or a peer-to-peer or what that looks like. But I really like what you said a little while ago about how sometimes there is a message that someone won't necessarily be able to hear if it's delivered in a proper write-up, whatever that looks like in a
Mm.
workplace. But that sometimes a well-placed joke can land and let that person absorb the message that they're trying to use. Would you have any advice to listeners about when or when not to use that, or just like how you know where the right situation is appropriate?
That's a really good question because it's so context dependent, right? And it
Yeah.
depends on who's in the room, what are you discussing? I believe that humor can come into any situation, even death. Even I've been to plenty of funerals where they're joyous occasions, and not because people didn't like the person who passed, right? But because they they have decided to reclaim joy in that
Mm,
in that time with each other. So I do believe that you can use humor in most situations. You can find a way to weave it in. That said, I know that there are plenty of jokes that you should not, cannot, please don't do it. You will get canceled. Um, Maybe if you have a specific situation, you could ask me and maybe we could do a like, hey, what about this?
you want to
Y'all want
role
to
play
try
with me?
something like that?
Sure. Okay, so say for example, okay, I'll just use our real world, like our actual life. It's Dave
Mhm.
and I, and we are fighting about what's something fake that we can fight about. Um,
How
a new
many?
person. Say there's a new person we really want to
Sure.
hire, and I really, really want to hire them, and Dave doesn't. And
Mhm.
I'm like, da da da, but they could do this for you, like XYZ, whatever. Maybe do I
Mhm.
make a joke about like your desk is a mess and it's a disaster and you desperately need help? Or do I say, Dave, you need some help. Let's have a conversation about what this person can do, XYZ. Does that make sense? Does that give you enough situational context?
Yeah, yeah. I think that and y'all have really good rapport.
Thank you.
You
He and
do.
I?
Yeah,
We've been working at
yeah.
it. We've been
This
working
is
at
my
it.
first time seeing you together, but clearly you have good rapport. So I'm going to assume that you have good rapport enough to
Hmm.
be able to say, hey, you need help. Um, so with that, I would say yes. Yes, you can tell a joke. Yes, you can tell a joke about how messy his desk is and how maybe this person is the superhero that he's been waiting for, and they're going to come in, they're going to clean his life up. Yeah, I think that would be a great time to tell a joke, but I would do it in a way I I would not tell the so I would say yes, you can. Here's where I would not tell that joke. I would not
Okay.
do it if you have mentioned his messy desk before multiple times and he's winced. And I
Mm.
Okay.
say wince because that tells me that there's a trigger in there.
Hmm.
Like, oh, you've been on me about this desk, and now you're making jokes about it. You know what?
Mm.
Not only am I not cleaning this desk, I'm not hiring this person either. F you, bye. That that's what could happen. That's how
Very.
that could backfire on you.
I
Yeah.
also love in the example that you gave about how you're doing it, you were saying this person can be your superpower for this thing, not, dang, look how messy you are. They could save your life. Like it was a
Right.
positive reframe. Even in the midst of the joke, it was still helping them see it in a different way. So I like
Yes.
that a lot. Very good.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that's really key in communication with people is having permission to enter the room. And so there's pockets in my life that Hannah has entrance to that Heather you don't have entrance to. I've known you for, 56
59
minutes
minutes.
now. So there's some spots, I'm sorry, there's still some spots that I haven't opened to you.
And that makes
Hannah's,
sense.
Hannah's got a room into a lot more rooms. Um, yeah, I think we're just talking about this idea that there's, rooms in your life that you let people into and don't let people into. And
Hmm.
that's acceptable. And from an employee standpoint, it's really important to have boundaries where you can keep your boss out. And as an employer, it's important that you have places that you don't let your employees into. So I think that that's important as you consider all of what we had just been talking about. Hannah,
Oh,
you
yeah,
had
for
something you wanted
sure.
to say.
When
Yeah.
we're talking about authenticity, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. When we're talking about authenticity, that was something that I was always a little bit cautious about. For a while there, companies were saying, um, we want you to bring your full self to work. And I just want to add a little bit, bring your best self to work, because you don't necessarily need to share every single thing about your life at work. But it is
Hmm.
important for you to share what other people need to know about you so that they understand what gets you excited about certain things and why you don't get excited about certain things, why you make certain decisions and what how they can support you. So I think that we can find opportunities to be more of ourselves, to be closer to, and to share that version of ourselves that we feel comfortable sharing at work. And I think ultimately that is the goal of that movement is to give people an opportunity to feel like I can bring my best self to work, not the version of myself that fits the dress code and the hair code and the speech code and all of those things. Walk this way because this is how all of the leaders at this company walk. So I think that was the intent of the movement, and that's the intent of psychological safety and all of that is just to create a place where people can actually contribute because they're not holding back so much that what they are giving you is trash, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, we talk a lot at Better Together Group about people bringing their authentic self. We talked about that before, and then also bringing their fullness to work.
Mm-hmm.
Bring
Yeah.
bring what you have today. And if you were out celebrating the Dodgers win on Saturday night and you come to work on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, your fullness is probably going to look a little different, and be authentic about that and bring everything you do have.
Right.
And if you
Mm.
don't have enough to bring, you need to use a sick day, call in sick.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I had a science teacher who had that philosophy. She went based on percentages. If you only have 20% today, you better give me 100% of your 20. And we're like, okay, yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
That's really
I had a
good.
college prof that said, please, when you come to class, bring everything that you have. If you're tired and you're going to be falling asleep, please just lay your head down on the desk and go to sleep. And so I got lots of sleep in his class that semester.
Okay.
All
I am
right.
curious. We need to wrap this bad boy up, and I have one more question for you, Heather, before we finish off. Just based on the concept of all different people have all different rooms, and different people can go into different rooms. What would you give to a piece of advice to younger professionals who are still building their doors? I think there are a lot of people who have those houses and who have those rooms, but are still really junior in their position. And this most certainly applies to me. I would say this for myself, but definitely a lot of my peers as well, where there's different people speaking into our lives, different managers, different mentors, whatever that looks like, and they're trying to come into those rooms and they're walking into them and we want to put the door up, but we haven't built one yet. How would you recommend that person um, protect themselves in different settings where people are saying something that they're perhaps not aligned with or can't hear for whichever purpose of safety that might be? Psychological safety. Do you have any suggestions there?
Yes. This is a fascinating question. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for the setup for this. Okay. So in grad school, I'll tell you a little bit about how we were trained, because you come out with a PhD in your 20s and you're expected to advise executives on how to run their businesses, and we're talking really big decisions, and it's a lot to expect from someone so young, leaving school, going into a corporation, and making helping people make some very serious decisions. So one thing that they taught us how to do, because we knew that we would be working with different kinds of companies. Some people, they get a job and they're like, I've been working in this industry for like 20 years, and this is, and that's fine. That's all good and fine. That gives you the opportunity to really go deep and learn that industry. But if you don't have that, and now you've got to figure out, how do I understand a company quickly, all of these different kinds of companies, nonprofit, government, corporate, all of that. This is what they told us. This is what I've done. This is what has helped me over the years go from someone in my 20s to now where I'm at, and feeling pretty confident that I can go into any organization and figure it out pretty quickly. Pay attention to the artifacts in that company. So you want to look around, literally wander around, look at the signage, look at the break room. What do they have posted in that break room? If you go into a company and in the break room, they've got your mama don't work here signs, clean up after you, and all. I have worked at places like that. That tells you something about the people who are working there and the expectations and the frustrations that they have with each other. You keep walking and you start to listen, pay attention, do some ear hustling. What are people talking about? Are they talking with excitement about projects, or are they whispering and talking about each other? That gives you an idea about the culture and the expectations. If you hear people who are whispering and talking about each other, you better be careful, because that is not a safe place. And at some point, they may be whispering and talking about you too. So you just, once you get very observant about what you see and hear, you will start to notice some things about that environment that you're in that tell you about the culture and what you can expect from them.
Mm,
When you first come in, do they just sit you down in front of a computer with a bunch of files and you have to figure out how to do everything for yourself? Or do they roll out the red carpet for you and give you all the snacks and all the things? You know, it tells you a lot about the company, and it also tells you what they are expecting from you as well. Are you going to have to do everything yourself and be a self-starter, or are you going to work with a team? So
mm,
just be really observant when you first come in, and don't let that stop you from letting people know who you are and what you're all about, but make sure that you also get a sense of who the key players are before you go and broadcast your master plan, right? Don't be the
sure.
evil villain who broadcasts their evil master plan, and then they're like, oh no, foiled again. Like, don't do that. At least know who
Right.
you're dealing with
Yeah.
before you
Well,
do
I've
that.
and like what that does is it just has you go in aware of what you're going into. It
Yes.
may
mhm.
not preclude you from taking the job. It may just make you forewarned so that
Mm-hmm.
you can game plan how to succeed there,
Yes.
and how to get by until you find a different culture that you want, or that you find that, you know what, I can survive in this culture if I'm just smart about the way I look at it, and I'm, not judging them for being that way necessarily, but I'm aware and I'm coming in and I'm trying to participate in the safest way possible. Does that make
Yeah.
Yes.
sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
What
love that.
language are they using? What are they getting excited about? Learn the lingo. And
Do
one
the
of the best books that I've ever read that really helped me when I stepped into a director role, it's called The First 90 Days. And it'll help you come up with that plan that you're talking about. So you know, who do I need to connect with? What questions do I need to ask them? What do I need to look for? What can I share? I'm pretty sure I got one of my positions because I read that book and created the plan and brought it into the interview. So I would recommend
that's
that to your listeners too.
That's awesome. And speaking of
Mhm.
things that we need to look out for, you have a crazy cool concept going on right now. Help us
Yes.
finish this podcast out by telling us about it and where our listeners and viewers should go to find it for you. Help pump it a
Proposal
Yes.
little
Flow
bit.
Project, is that what it was called, Heather?
Yes, it's called Proposal Flow. Okay. And I'm gonna try and very quickly uh, get the web address for this. It's called Proposal Flow. So imagine this. Imagine I love watching all of those shows where you get an entrepreneur, you give them some constraints, and you see what they can do in 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, whatever it is. So I am actually filming myself in this same kind of position right now for the next 30 days, month of November. Uh, I'm using my time. Some people grow beards in November. I'm launching a project.
I'm gonna grow a company. I've got a beard.
Right, right. I would grow a glorious beard. It would be so good. But I've since lasered all of my beard hair off. I can't do it. I just can't do the beard thing anymore. I've tried. Anyways, I sent I asked a bunch of AIs, hey, you've got 30 days, you've got $100. What would you do if you had to survive or get deleted? What would you do? And they all gave me these different answers and these different plans. I decided to go with Claude because I like Claude's plan the best. Claude said I would create Proposal Flow. It's basically a tool for freelancers, contractors, and consultants who spend all their time, effort, energy investing in creating proposals, not even knowing if they're going to get the job, right?
Mhm.
Oftentimes getting ghosted by the people they're sending proposals to, spending hours like in billable time, that is money that they're potentially losing every single time they work on a proposal. So I said, Claude, this is an interesting idea. And it has created a plan for me. Every day I get to find out what I'm going to do that day. And it's pretty aggressive and it's been kind of fun. And I'm building in public. So it's also bringing up all of my own personal insecurities. I have no time to do any editing of these videos. So you get to hear whatever's coming out of my brain into the microphone, and you get to see me build this thing in public. We'll see at the end of 30 days if Claude and I can flip $100 or if we flop spectacularly. And if you're interested in participating in this, you can go to tryproposalflow.base44.app. You can also look me up on YouTube. That's where I am basically broadcasting every single day to show you what I'm doing.
Amazing. That's so exciting. I
Yes.
most certainly have spent far too many hours in the last like 4 weeks creating proposals. So my word, that sounds really, really cool and really
Hmm.
interesting. And I'm sure that many of our viewers can find some great support and tools in that. We'll be so excited to follow you along in the process. But
Yeah.
thank you
Sure.
so much for coming and doing a WTF Talks podcast with us. It was so great to chat with you. And I think that our listeners have probably got lots of great knowledge and information takeaways from it. But do you have anything outside of the proposal flow? Where can people find you to just follow you on the Lead the Levity, everything like that?
Yes. All right. So the website is leadwithlevity.com. You can find the podcast there. You can find out information about the organization. And if you want to connect with me, I encourage you to do so on LinkedIn. That's Heather Walker, PhD, on LinkedIn. Find me, connect with me. I'd love to reach out. Reach
Yeah,
out.
Okay.
We can talk business strategy and all of that.
Heather,
amazing.
I'll be doing that today. I'll be reaching out to you on LinkedIn, and I've certainly really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for bringing
Thank you.
levity to the conversation, but also helping us define psychological safety and how to make that really work for young workers coming into the work environment. That's really a powerful tool for them, and they'll
Yeah.
benefit a lot from your words of experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye.